those are August 13th, August 27th at 11 a.m., as well as August 27th at 5.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Jess, Riley?
Aye.
Leo Brem?
Aye.
Megan Glenn? Tim Knight?
Aye.
Great.
All right. Sorry, I actually was muted, so aye.
And we are going to wait for Mr. Scott to present because we want to make sure that's recorded so that viewers can take a look later. So we're going to stick around the agenda and we're going to go right into the business and COVID-19 policy vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that the subcommittee's been working hard on this, and I would just let me get an echo there.
Make sure that we speak right into
The mic's not, this isn't working. It's a Zoom.
And everyone else has to turn their volume on.
Yeah. So we're looking at doing the interim policies for COVID-19 that will help us as we go through this process, whether it be hybrid or remote or in person. So I know that we've been working hard on this. This would be the second reading. We'd hope that we could get a vote this evening to approve. I would just say that a recommendation that I would make coming out of our last meeting and also coming out of the Board of Health recommendation on page 2 on number 6, where it says that materials and neck gaiters and bandanas are not recommended for use inside. I would ask that you amend it to not allowed in the schools, because I think that they have beefed up that recommendation from the Medfield Board of Health. I think we should probably reflect that in our policy, because we tried to use what they had put together for mass construction. So other than that, I thought that this was an excellent policy. I passed it through with the leadership team today and got some feedback, and that was really the only thing that we had picked up, because I know that we had talked about using what the Board of Health had recommended. So that's all I have for anyone else. I know Tim and Megan have been working on that. And
First of all, thank you very much, both of you, for the work you put into this. It is much appreciated.
Jeff, the only question I had was, is there any requirement for Andy or eyes?
well, I think, typically we do that. And, one of the things that is good about this is came from MASC. So their legal team was a part of that wrote this as well. So I think we typically have Andy review them, but when something comes straight from MASC, then that's reviewed by their council and recommended for school committees and school districts.
Yeah, maybe there was some items that we stripped out.
Yes, please.
So,
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. Do we have a motion to approve with Dr. Marsden's suggested amendment?
Motion to approve with the amendment to not include gators. It was gators and
Not allowed yet.
Bandanas, right?
and bandanas.
Okay, thank you. Jess Riley. Do we have a second? Second, Tim Knight. We'll take a roll call vote. Jess Riley.
Aye.
Leo Brem. Megan Glenn. Tim Knight. Anna Mae O'Shea. Aye. It passes. Thank you very much. And once again,
I'm still getting feedback that people can't hear as of 5:55. So
It's only streaming the Zoom within that. So we're talking with companies and they're not.
Yeah, it's a Zoom.
okay.
I say they being recorded. I think we should just cut out you.
Yeah, no, I'm not even, I'm just capturing it on my camera, not even connected to you guys.
To the Zoom, okay,
So-
all right. Thank you very much. These last couple of days have been a little dicey.
Yeah.
That's all right, we're moving forward.
Each one of us has to unmute.
Yes,
Okay.
please,
All right, so we will.
great. So just to repeat, the COVID-19 policy was voted on and passed. And Dr. Marsden, when will that be posted on our website?
We'll get that up tomorrow.
Beautiful,
Yep, tomorrow morning.
okay, thank you. Now full day kindergarten tuition reduction vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as we discussed at our last meeting, we've gotten some inquiries from parents. And I made a recommendation last time that we reduce our kindergarten tuition by 50% as long as the district is in hybrid or the remote model. We've run through the numbers, Michael and I have gone through them. It will be a result loss of $250,000 of revenue. But we think that based on the 10% increase in Chapter 70, if you remember, our FY21 was based on a 10% cut in Chapter 70. Chapter 70 was level funded by the state. So we'll have an increase of Chapter 70, and again, between $500,000 and $600,000. It depends on what floor of town hall you talk to get that number. But that will be enough to cover what we need to cover in terms of teacher salaries, et cetera, regarding full-day kindergarten. And that's if we're remote or hybrid for an entire year. So if we end up going in person at some point in the first of the year, then that will obviously minimize the impact that we have in terms of our revenue loss. But we feel like it's something that we can accomplish as long as the Chapter 70 is there. The state has made a commitment to that level funding, so we feel pretty good about it. So I'd like to be able to respond to parents and let them know that that's what we're looking at doing. So happy to answer any questions, or Michael will answer any questions around what it does.
Show me the money. Okay, fine. I'm ready to vote.
All right, I feel comfortable, if you guys feel comfortable with, as long as we can cover ourselves
Mhm.
and, if we go back, it will be adjusted.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Dr. Marsden's, recommendation to reduce the kindergarten, full day kindergarten tuition rate while we are in hybrid?
So moved.
Moved by Leo Graham, second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Jess Riley.
Aye.
Leo Graham.
Aye.
Megan Glenn. Aye.
Tonight,
Aye.
Anna Mae O'Shea Brooke. Aye, fantastic. Thank you very much to Michael and Dr. Marsden. Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so diversity, equity, inclusion, the mascot task force. So I think we've got some representation, Dr. Marsden, from the
We do. Eric
schools.
Olmberg and Brian Gavigan have reached out and volunteered to be a part of that task force. I know that both of them submitted some documents prior to the vote, and it's something that they feel strongly about and they want to help out. So I'd like to put their names forward. I know Jess had mentioned to me also that another staff member was interested. She can certainly just reach out to me, send me an email, and we'll get her on that list as well.
Beautiful. And then a community lead, Jean Minio, graciously volunteered to represent the community. And I think Jess Riley would like to be a school committee rep on that.
Surely.
And then I suppose you folks can then get together with Dr. Marsden to figure out the
Sure.
process and moving forward.
Is there any thought of a student rep?
Oh, for
Oh, of course.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. Yes, and alumni and community members. So yes, so I think they will be tasked with working with Dr. Marsden to work out the logistics in terms of how to include people and timelines, etc.
Right.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jess. School reopening update.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So we've been busy, certainly ready. We had a great kickoff. Teachers have been in now for, over a week and have done professional development, really good energy in the district. And I know that we tried to set up a really good plan for them for those 10 days in which it was a mixture of professional development, but also a lot of time for them to do the planning, which is important as we enter the hybrid model that we're in. So it's been going very, very well. We have open houses coming up Friday and Monday. So we want our community to come in, our kids to come in and get a sense of what it looks like in our schools. So they become comfortable with it, because it will look a little different. There will be less desks. There are signs everywhere, those kinds of things. We want to make sure that everyone understands that with the protocols that we have in place. Teachers have done a nice job and principals have done a nice job planning that. So we're in good shape for that. I just do want to highlight, if you remember last time we discussed that we're going to have a real great, rich conversation around racism and reflections on racism, we called it. So we had 2 sessions of that yesterday. So the group of teachers that have come together to were in a book group last year and have really carried over the leadership of this initiative, along with Mary Brule and others, have done a great job with this. And they held, we started out with a slide deck yesterday in which I did a short introduction to a video by Dr. Owen Blummer, who is a former superintendent and also professor at BC, who did an incredible 10-minute talk on the history of racism in our country. And everyone got to see that as kind of the backdrop and to frame the conversations that we had. We also read the article around, that was written by a Medfield student around racism in Medfield in the school. So we talked about that. Really good breakout groups, hard conversations that people haven't had before. What the impact on those particular articles were and how they impact their practice and what we're going to do about it as a district. And really rich conversation. The group that I was in was about 11 or 12 people, and we had a smaller breakout group. And just people were really honest about their feelings and how they acknowledge how lots of times we've never had to think about this before. And then just in the past year or so, it's really come to the forefront where we start talking about items like white privilege and racism and social justice and those kinds of issues. So I just want to give kudos to the staff for doing a wonderful job. The feedback I got from each group leader was very positive, that people were open, honest, and really looking forward to working toward this initiative for the years to come. Because as Dr. Blummer said, this isn't something that you do in a couple of meetings and all of a sudden we're all set. This is an 8 to 10 year initiative of consistent conversations, training, starting at a very early age, but also with our staff as well. So I think it went really well, and there's a lot of energy to move forward with this group. So I just wanted to highlight that as something that's very positive that went on this week. In terms of other reopening, as you know, we've been working with the teachers and looking at a memorandum of understanding of agreement moving forward. So, that'll be the topic of our executive session, but we've had several sessions since our last meeting, long sessions, but we're really making great progress and looking forward to talking to you all about that in executive session. We've continued to get supplies in and PPE. As Michael has said before, we did these orders months ago, but they are trickling in. So we every day we get something different. One of the things that happened we weren't aware of is that we had ordered, it was a disinfectant wipes or hand sanitizer, one of them, and it was redirected. So it was coming to us, and then FEMA got involved and redirected it, so we didn't get our shipment, and now we're waiting for that second shipment to go. So there's all these kinds of things that are happening. And fortunately, we got ahead of it and started doing this in May and June. I was talking to a vendor this week who said that many districts are coming to him now. And as he said, you're really late to the party because, places like Medfield and others, we were way ahead of that and tried to get as much as we could stockpile. That being said, we are going to use a lot of materials. There's going to be a lot of PPE used, a lot of disinfectant wipes, a lot of hand sanitizer. So we need to keep making those orders and making sure we have a steady supply going forward. So doing a lot of that, prepping the buildings. Teachers are excited. We can't wait for the kids to come back. Looking forward to next week on the remote day on the 16th, and then having our cohort B kids start on Thursday. So it's been a long 6 months without kids, so we're looking forward to having kids back in our buildings. Happy to answer anything what we're doing, but I think we're trying to keep you involved in that and send you emails and updates. We're meeting every week, it feels like. So
Can you give us an update on the open houses? I think they're having some days where kids can come in, or is that just at the high school and middle school?
No, so all schools are doing that. So we wanted to get the cohort B kids in tomorrow. So they're all scheduled for Friday, and then Monday will be the cohort A kids, so that we, again, keep that consistent day of the week. And everyone's doing it a little bit differently. High school is doing it almost like a mock schedule, so they get to see what each room would look like. Elementaries are doing it more like a meet and greet, where families and kids can come in for 10 minutes or so, meet the teacher, get a sense of what the school looks like. Especially those transition years, it's important for kids to get a sense of what it looks like if they haven't been in the school, because we really didn't do what we normally do in terms of transitions and everything at the end of last year. So we thought it was important to have that time where students could meet their teachers and get a sense of what the buildings look like. So Friday and Monday are our 2 open house days.
Great, thank you, Dr. Marsden. Any other questions, folks? All right, Dale Street School Project.
So we Okay, it says audio died again. Yeah, for some reason, the host keeps muting me. I'm not sure why. Maybe I should take that personally, or maybe I shouldn't.
Sorry, Jeff.
So I was
I'm just doing it to
not
stop-
muted, and then I was, so I think it keeps coming up saying the host has muted you. I forgot where I was now.
Dale Street.
Thank you. Dale Street. So we had our meeting last night. Again, we weren't able to have the vote, but we have a meeting scheduled in the future. You know, Leo and Anna Mae were, as members of the school building committee, were there as well. I don't know if you want to add anything, but we have a tight timeline with our preferred schematic, and you know, we need to hit those timelines. So hopefully this doesn't throw us off too much.
Since we had
since we had a bit of an audio problem, there are people who are asking about the reopening plan. Would we, are we taking questions for that?
Well, I would just,
clarify
I just
anything?
saw that question. So the only changes to the reopening plan were an appendix that we added to greater explain what cohort D would look like. So we've made a couple of updates on that, but essentially everything that is in there is still there. We just tried to be more clear with cohort D, because I know folks wanted some feedback on what that looked like, maybe more explicit. So we added an appendix on that, which we emailed out to families. But there has been no substantial changes in terms of the whole reopening plan.
Okay, and then we are still in negotiations around the hybrid plan.
How it all looks, yes.
So,
Yep.
To be announced as soon as we are able. So thank you, folks.
Yeah,
for
as soon as we're
your
able to do that, as soon as we come to a formal agreement in principle and the school committee approves it and the union ratifies it, then we'll let everyone know. And but we're still working towards that right now. But we're making great progress. I don't want to give the impression that things aren't happening. Things are moving along very positively for both sides, and we hope to get that out in very, very soon.
Great. Now, I feel very badly that Mr. Scott has been so patient waiting. I know we were waiting for it to be presented, but I think if we post your report tomorrow, and if people listen in now and they'll have that recorded, then I think we should move forward with you.
I think we're all set. I think I have access to share my screen.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, lovely. All right, so why don't we let Mr. Scott present
Okay.
now, please. Thank you.
So it's important for Eric to come tonight, because you know there's so many changes with the sports for the fall. MIAA had a lot of rulings. The state was involved. Eric's been working really hard with the TVL, Tri-Valley League, and all the ADs and the administration to try to get the best product we can for our kids and opportunities for our kids in the fall. And he'll talk about the unique wedge season this year, which is the first time I think ever that a high school student has the ability to get 4 letters in 1 year. So play
So-
4 sports.
So I guess I'll preface this by saying I will definitely try to not use the word pivot, unprecedented, or new normal at all. So I know that you guys
Great.
have heard enough of that. But definitely a lot of changes this season, especially this is my 12th year as athletic director, 9th year. And I think this last 6 months, it's just been a whirlwind, and we're trying to, stay ahead of the curve. But I felt it was important just to come here, every day as in with the school openings and everything else, there's changes. Even today we had a few changes. So that's my little disclaimer at the bottom there that things could change, but I wanted to give you an update of kind of where we're at as of September 10th. So basically, over the past few months, over the summer, the EEA and DSE came out with guidelines that would actually potentially allow a return of athletics in some sort. They had to go to the MIAA, which is the governing body for the state of Massachusetts, and get approval for that. So MIAA did, put in sport modifications. They did get approval from the DESE to continue with fall athletics with a couple of caveats. One being that football gets into that, moved into that wedge season that Dr. Marsden spoke of. And I'll get back to that in a second when I talk about specific seasons. And then our league kind of took those modifications and guidelines and tried to enhance those to actually make it even a safer experience for those athletes. And obviously, our goal is to keep everybody safe here, and that's our guiding factor right there. So basically, and as Dr. Marsden said, it's going to break down into 4 seasons. So the seasons are going to be shortened a bit and kind of moved around a bit. But the fall 1 season could begin no earlier than the 16th of September. But we're going to begin, and that's our starting day, remote. So we felt that wasn't the most important thing is opening schools and opening schools safely. So we are going to have the first day of golf be on the 18th, and then a week for everything else, which is going to be some of the moderate, and then low for cross-country sports. The MIAA also came out with, there's no non-league play, so out of league play. There's going to be no postseason tournament for the fall season 1. They have not said at this point what the winter, fall 2, or spring season is going to look like. So we just know that the guidelines today, speaking to the MIAA, should come out around the end of October on that. So I'll hopefully have some follow-up news on that at that point. The winter season will actually begin on the date that it was supposed to begin on. That's Monday, the November 30th, and it will end on the 21st, where usually it ends on the Sunday before St. Patrick's Day. So that's about a month shorter season. And again, we do have a winter tournament, then that season's going to be, the regular season is going to be shortened there. This is where it gets really interesting. The fall 2 or floating season, that's going to start on February 22nd and go to the 25th of April. And that's when football, cheer, and unified basketball would be moved for all schools in Massachusetts. And as a league and as a district, we're in District 7 with a Hockomock and Bay State League. We all moved volleyball to that season. We felt that gives the athletes the best chance to participate. There were a number of schools, even in our league, that didn't have access to their gyms because their auxiliary cafeterias or COVID rooms or things like that. So we felt that was the best decision for our league. And then the spring season will begin on the 26th of April and go as far as July 3rd. So I think my year is going to be another couple of weeks longer. Sports we're going to offer in the fall. I'm just going to allude to this. We're still going to try to offer all the levels that we do, and I feel that's important for inclusion, for participation. They might not have the game schedule that they have seen in the past, but this might actually have more kids involved if we do not have cuts. And we might just have more inter-squad stuff and cohort stuff, which I'll get back to. So varsity and JV golf, boys varsity cross country, girls varsity cross country, the 3 levels of boys soccer, girls soccer, and field hockey. And actually with the numbers, even for boys soccer, think it's currently 80 people. We actually might have 2 different JV2 teams for that. So if that does happen and that comes to fruition, I might be speaking with Michael to see if we could, with those numbers, keeping those students, add another coach so we can actually, look into that. Lake Middle School athletics, after speaking with the league unanimously decided to fall to kind of not have, fall middle school athletics. After speaking with Mr. Vaughn and Mrs. Campbell, we are all in agreement that because of the travel that's involved with middle school sports and everything else, we felt it the safest to table this, and again, not to rule out subsequent seasons, but at this point to focus more on just the high school athletics. But we are going to in discussion with offering them some sort of, again, a running program on, cohort A comes Monday and Tuesday, works with a coach, then cohort B on Thursday and Friday. So we are going to hopefully provide some opportunities for kids again so they can compete. The risk levels, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about this, but the lower risk sports that we have in the fall season are going to be golf and cross country, and then the moderate risk sports are the field hockey, the soccers, and volleyball, which we did move to the floating season. And any of the high risk sports, well, we don't have to this season. They're already moved to the second season. So really thinking outside the box, our league is made up of 12 teams, and it's split into the larger schools, the 6 larger schools and 6 smaller schools. Well, we felt that again, being that, league standing, there's no postseason tournament, this and that, it's more important to provide an opportunity for kids. And we kind of redistributed this into different pods that are based on geography. So it'd be the least amount of travel. So you can see there that we fall into pod 2 with Dedham, Dover, Sherburne, Millis, Norwood, and Westwood. So those are the only teams that we'd be playing. And not only are we, worried about the number of contacts, but when I talk about the schedule, the next slide, again, we would try to develop something that's going to be the safest, for our student athletes and our coaches. So practice sessions, there's going to be all sorts of limitations and I won't bore you with these. For soccer alone, there's 5 pages of limitations from, no throw-ins, different for punting the ball, can't go over midfield, absolutely no contact, no shoulder to shoulder, no slide tackling, et cetera, et cetera. But in talking in the past, and this seems like a perfect time to roll this out when we talked in past years in SEL, we are limiting all practices to 2 hours or less regardless. And that's going to last the entire year and hopefully forever. And then once the season, we'll have a typical tryouts and the weeks leading up to the first contests, which are the 10th of October. It'll be regular, Monday through Friday, an occasional weekend. But once the season begins, all teams will play the same opponent on Saturdays and Sundays. So for example, we play Westwood week 1. So, girls soccer, for instance, would be home. Field hockey would be at home. Boys soccer and cross country would be on the road at Westwood. On Sunday, the teams that are away will come here and vice versa. So again, limiting contact points. It's 1 team. For tracing, you're only playing 1 opponent a week, and heaven forbid something happens, it'll be very easy to to contact trace and do everything else. Also, the EEA has put a number of restrictions on the number of people on a field. If there's 2 different cohorts or teams on a field, they have to be separated by 14 feet. So there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration and work with Michael for, you've seen it around here, even just coming in to the facility itself, hand sanitizing. The balls have to be, for soccer balls, have to be laid out on the field, 8 of them, and desanitized after every quarter. And at the scoring table, some hand sanitizer, and bench, there won't be any athletes on the bench. They'll be spaced 6 feet apart while all wearing masks, whether they're on the sideline or competing. So it's going to be again, look and feel a lot different, but I'm excited that again, they have an opportunity to participate. Game meets and practices. I kind of talked about this before. Really thinking outside the box. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from different schools that think that this is a very, very safe way to do things. Team rosters. we're cutting those down even, because for example, you can only have 50 people inside the fenced area at our turf. So if you have two teams of 20, as coach and assistant coach on each team, a scorekeeper, an athletic trainer, me, and as well as the officials, you're at 50 pretty quick. So we want to make sure that, and that's going to be very, very important to make sure that all teams are abiding by those. And I also heard you guys talking about the modifications for soccer. The MIAA is allowing for gaiters. Our league is not. So our league, everybody has to have a mask on for competing. The principals 2 weeks ago voted 12-0 unanimously in our league not to allow spectators in for now. The main reason again for that is the contact tracing. Someone would have to take every person's cell phone and email coming into a facility, and still the numbers are very limited. And we want to concentrate on the product on the field, but we are going to work. I have a meeting on Tuesday with Cable 8, and we want to to live stream all the games as well as tape them for huddle. So hopefully all parents will be able to, grandparents and everybody else, like we do for basketball games, will get to see their children participate. Individual sport modifications, I alluded to this. I'm not going to go into that. A lot of them are very drastic changes. Like a field hockey going from 11v11 down to 7v7. It's just a lot different, but coaches were sent out these modifications 2 weeks ago. So they can start to wrap their heads around them and, leading up to their season. And then the week before the season begins, coaches will actually have their first contact with the athletes, and we're allowing 2 days of 1 hour each of conditioning only, no sport specific stuff, where they can actually use some of that time to explain some of the rule modifications, and kids can hopefully get used to exercising and participating in masks, because I'm not sure that happened all summer long. Transportation for school athletics, we definitely are going to still offer transportation for our sports. Talking with the bus company yesterday, Connolly and Sons, they're not even sure how that's going to look. So whether it's shuttles, or we can do shuttles, how they're going to sanitize between, or if we have different buses for trips, some parents might feel still uncomfortable sending their kids on a bus. And this is why it was so important that, again, that another positive thing on the weekends, not only you're hopefully not going to have to deal with the imminent triple E at night, which is just another curveball coming at us, but this will give the parents an option to drive their children to these games. But again, we definitely want to make sure we offer the transportation. And there's the mass that's moving. And event day management, this is going to be very, very complex, but again, the safety of our students are going to be of pinnacle importance, making sure that we follow all the guidelines. So I probably know more about this than I ever thought I would, but really making sure that we do everything to keep our student athletes safe and coaches. Athletic training room, that's going to be, again, look a little different from past years too. She's probably Maria Hudzik, who's our athletic trainer. She is going to, probably have she's going to be at all the games except for the golf. She's probably going to have a satellite office, but also office down here below us. And then there's going to be procedures that are probably making appointments only. If a student does need to see her, but they need to be brought into that area. So again, just to make sure that the safety is the primary importance. In saying that too, there's going to be, no locker room access, this fall, and students are going to also be responsible for bringing their own labeled ice water to games. So we're not going to be using those, the same bottles and passing anything back and forth. We obviously know why. The only other thing that really came out of the guidelines is the MIAA. Curious enough, this rule proposal comes up every year and always gets defeated, but the board of directors voted 13-7 to temporarily suspend Rule 40, which allows for coaching out of season, which again, the TVL principals were very much against. We're allowing contact, like if coaches want to reach out via Zoom and things like that are non-sport specific, but what we don't want is athletes that are playing, soccer to also have a coach running a football practice in pads that day and things like that. And I just thought about the legal issues and everything else surrounding that, and it was mind boggling. So again, as District 7, the Bay State, the Hockomock, and the Tri-Valley League, we are not going to allow these out of season coaching for a plethora of reasons. So if you have any questions, but again, you kind of see here the most important part of this plan is just the health and safety of our students and student athletes and coaches.
Super. Well, thank you. Again, I know this was a monumental task, and most of us, or all of us, are grateful that you've done this, and especially figuring out a way to have our athletes play, because I think, this is all part of the school experience. It's a bummer about Blake, but it sounds like you guys have a plan.
Yep.
Seeking out alternatives, which I think is great. And but I have a question,
Sure.
and that is with the pods, just today, and I know this is fluid,
Yep.
and
I think I know what you're going to ask.
oh,
But go
okay,
ahead.
the Dedham
Yep.
piece, yes. So just wondering about that.
And that could
'cause-
happen anywhere. That actually did happen. Dedham, the Dedham AD texted us last night, and ironically enough, I think it stemmed from a party of senior athletes. So he's none too pleased. But if that happens, we're going to be constantly monitoring. And I would not be, as a parent, as an athletic director, comfortable sending anybody to. At this point, they can't do anything for 14 days, and then they have to, obviously come out of the red, and then they have to go in front of their school committee to, again, with a plan. So, but if any school, Norwood or Dedham or anything else like that, I wouldn't feel comfortable sending our athletes there.
Okay, good. I just, when I saw that today, and then I read the pod, and I'm like, no. Okay.
I mean,
So
understood.
the requirements are that any district goes into full remote, that in order for athletics to continue. So the procedure going forward from the state is that if any district is in full remote, or the red zone as they're calling it, but if they're in full remote, even if they're not in the red zone, like for instance, Franklin's in full remote, but they're not in the red zone, the school committee has to vote to approve or disapprove whether or not student athletes can participate. So they've been very clear about that's related to full remote high schools, that they need to do that. So that's something that I think Dedham's going to have to take up now, whether or not they're going to allow student athletes to participate. I mean, I think that one of the things that we talked about is if, you've gone full remote, like for instance, a school district A that decided from the start they want to go full remote, it's really a hard sell to then say we're going to participate in interscholastic athletics. Like it really is. If you can't come to school at all, that's a hard sell. So I think that's why they wanted to make sure that school committees were involved in that decision, and we'll see what happens. I mean,
It's something we'll be doing.
It'll something that we'll be discussing. We as athletic directors are talking daily. We had a 2-hour meeting today, and these things are always brought back to the school principals, and we communicate with the superintendents, and again, everything that we do, we want to make sure that we're doing so safely.
Right. I mean, obviously
Great
we would use our own best judgment as well, even if,
Sure.
and I don't want to throw, it's tough to be on a school committee lately, so I don't want to throw Dedham School Committee under the bus. But in that example, if they should vote that kids could do athletics in remote, we would still be able to have the
And it doesn't even
or at least
necessarily
you
need
guys
to
would
be
have
in the
the
red.
option.
There could be a school that's in the yellow or something else. And again, as a community, that we don't feel comfortable with that. And that's why, the league standings, everything that we've put on a pause. I mean, that's of no importance of this year. The main thing is, again, safety and health of our students, and providing an opportunity for them to, I'm not going to say new normal, but like to get back and come and just, compete and be
Right.
kids again.
Right.
I feel like that's really important. So I'm glad we have the opportunity, but I do not want to be the reason why, we're a school shutting down like that. I mean, I can tell you that right now. So I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be, hyper, vigilant and err on the side of caution 100% of the time.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Beautiful. Anyone else have a question for Eric Scott? Anyways, we really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And if
I
in a
encourage
subsequent meeting, you guys need me to come back to kind of give you an update, I'm always happy to come in. So thank you for
Super.
having me.
Thank you very much. You'll try to have the games recorded. You said you've got a meeting with Channel 8 or something or other?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that it is turned off on my
But
Yes.
yes, I'll record it and I want them live streamed as well.
Okay, so
And I
live
think we have
streamed
the
and
capabilities.
recorded.
We do have Wi-Fi out there. It's something we've done in the past, so I feel
Beautiful.
very confident we can do that.
All right, so live stream and television.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Sorry
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Eric.
much.
Premature.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, moving on. Next on the agenda is the FY21 budget. Dr.
Yeah,
Marsden?
thank you, Madam Chair. So I know we, at our last meeting, which was last week, I think, we said that we were going to start looking at some of those items on the FY21. Michael and I just need till the 17th to kind of put that together. So we're going to look at the, the revenue that we're losing, which we discussed tonight, and then look at what the actual amount is for Chapter 70, and then resurrect those cuts that we did in June, and then try to have that conversation. But we needed another week to get that done. So I appreciate your patience on that.
Nope, that is more than fair. All righty. So future agenda items, superintendent's evaluation, challenge success, student feedback, SEL, educational stability policy review, second reading, standard-based report card feedback with Christine Power. Our next meeting is next Thursday, but we're going to change the time.
Meetings technically.
Tomorrow. Yes, sorry. Yes, technically, we have an exec session tomorrow and a public meeting scheduled in, and then next Thursday again. But next Thursday, we are going to begin.
One question.
Yeah,
For
please.
future agenda items. I know we don't have an athletic director like Eric or other activities and other extracurriculars. But I think that might be worthwhile to get an update on any of the other, the theater, the band, the math
Yeah, that's
club.
a good idea.
And Jeff, I'm not trying to create a new position, don't worry. But even if it's whether yourself or somebody, but I
But
think
department
department
chairs,
chairs could do that.
music,
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
we've got the theater
Mhm.
folks, so absolutely, that's a great idea. Thank you, Tim. So we can add that as a future agenda item. And then just to note that the September 17th meeting will start at 7. Yeah, we're going to go back to the old times. Is that cool for people?
I mean
Great.
the old normal.
Old normal,
Right.
yes, exactly. All righty, so right now we are going to move into executive session, but before we do that, do we have any statements? School committee members at this point? Anything? No? Okay, great. So we will move into executive session and not return to open session to discuss issues related to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, specifically Medfield Teachers Association, Units A and B. All righty. And so do we have a motion to, yeah. What is that?
We're not
I don't think.
asking, we would not like to have public.
Yeah, we have no visitors in the schools right now, so.
Yeah, all right. So sorry, no. No visitors in the school right now, so we're gonna,
We would love to see you.
I know, exactly.
Sorry, yes, exactly.
And I appreciate people being keen enough to be present, but I think we're just gonna keep it to who's needed now, and people can participate via Zoom. But thank you. All righty, so we will move into executive session and we'll roll call. Thank you. Jessica Riley,
Aye.
Leo Brown,
Aye.
Megan Glenn,
Aye.
Tim Knight,
Hi.
Anna Mae O'Shea Brooke, aye, and thank you all for tuning in this evening, and we'll be back tomorrow and next Thursday. All right, thank you.